Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen and Alyx King here. Today is Wednesday, January the 30th, 2019. It's 8 a.m. in New York, 5 a.m. in Los Angeles, 1 p.m. in London. Sydney, Australia is at 12 midnight. Wherever you are in the world, thank you for tuning in for another episode of LOA Today, your daily dose of happy. And I am very happy to report and announce that Alyx King is going to be joining me on the Wednesday morning podcast from this day forward. Cindie is going to still be around. She'll be doing the Wednesday afternoon podcast, but for various personal reasons, she's just not able to do the morning podcast either on Tuesday or Wednesday for the foreseeable future. There is, however, the chance that she'll be back at some point, and if that happens, then we'll be 3, and that'll be good. But for the moment, we're 2. 2 is good too. 2 is a good number, I still say. But
2's good. Yeah.
And I love you immensely, Alyx. I have to say, though, I love Cindie too, and I'm going to be kind of missing her a little bit. So I think you can allow that.
Well, I wouldn't expect any less.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's the way that's playing out. But anyway, we're seeing people starting to work their way into the chat area, which is fabulous. Hope you guys are off to a good start today. I was giving some thought to what do we do. This was supposed to be another Neville Goddard day because that's what I do with Cindie.
Right.
Normally. But obviously that was not going to work out too well. I don't think have you read anything from Neville? I don't think you have you?
Not a thing.
Not a thing. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. So just wanted to make sure. I didn't want to make too many assumptions. But speaking of assumptions, that was one of the things I wanted to talk about today. Because I was noticing, I've been noticing quite a bit lately, how in the media at large, and I don't mean just news media, I mean like entertainment media, I mean every kind of media you can think of. There is a tendency going on these days that, quite honestly, I don't like very much. And I think a lot of people don't like it too much. We usually dismiss it as, particularly online, as being clickbait. But there is a tendency now to headline stories and articles and so forth with outright lies. Just things that are not even true at all. And that's kind of challenging because, we are deliberate creators. We understand the importance of imagining what we want instead of what is real. But by the same token, we live in a real world where, it kind of helps if you really know what the real is. I mean, if you're going to, at least in some way, live in the real world, you want to know what the reality is. Doesn't mean you want to make that your permanent thought process, but you at least want to know what the ground you're standing on isn't going to move 5 seconds later and all of a sudden be replaced by something entirely different. I saw... I was doing some surfing around this morning before the show, and I saw one of these clickbait things that said something about, they had an article about the classified photos from Woodstock showing just how much more horrible it was there than we thought. I'm thinking,
I saw that.
Did you see that? I'm thinking, are you kidding me? I mean, really? and so I actually gave in and I clicked it because I just wanted to see, did they actually have something else I didn't know about? And of course not. It was just all the usual Woodstock photos. And I'm thinking, why is it that we're even paying attention to them? Because I did. I mean, quite honestly, I paid attention. I didn't really fall for it. I knew what was coming, but I clicked it anyway, just because I wanted to see, are they really that stupid? Or are they really that crazy? Or is it I'm the one who's stupid because I clicked the darn thing? So, but it is part of a larger trend, and it is a little bit of a disturbing trend. One of the things that made me think about this is your comment yesterday about your friend who doesn't believe in the law of attraction, which is perfectly fine, perfectly acceptable.
Right.
But it also occurs to me that there are a lot of people who will, in their dismissal of those of us who believe in the law of attraction, who understand how it works, to basically say, well, we're lying. And that's an interesting question. When is it a lie? And more importantly, what's the difference between lying and imagining? Right?
I think, I have good experience with lying and imagining because my father's a pathological liar. So, I believe the difference is imagining is fine, but lying is when you start to believe in what you've imagined.
Well, that's also part of the law of attraction. You're supposed to believe.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, it's kind of contradictory because, that's what we're trying to do. but in a bad way. So,
Yeah.
You want people to believe, so you start believing your own lies, and that's when it becomes a problem.
I also realize there is an important distinction that most of us who are practitioners of LOA would consider to be pretty important, which is the imaginings we're doing in order to provide benefit for ourselves, for others, for loved ones, and so forth. Whereas the people I've been calling the people who are liars, they're lying in order to deceive or to harm others.
Right.
And that to me is a big distinction. Now, from the law of attraction perspective, that's not really a big distinction. I mean, the law of attraction is just the law. It's just, whatever you focus on is what you attract more of. It doesn't really care whether you're lying because you're being deceptive or lying because you're just trying to convince yourself of a better place or whatever it is. It just responds to whatever it is you're focusing on. So this isn't so much a law of attraction question. This is more of what makes Walt feel better question. Which is true. And I'm perfectly willing to admit it. That's exactly what it is. And I think it's probably true for
totally
most people.
Fine.
I think most people feel this way. They want to make their lives better. They don't want to make their lives worse. And I don't think most people want to make other people's lives worse. I
don't think so. No.
I think most people are pretty decent people, I would say. I mean, we could all think of exceptions, but why think about the exceptions? Let's think about the rule. The rule is most people really are decent people, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
And it's kind of encouraging to know that. So I was trying to ask myself, okay, so how do I look at this thing that I don't like very much in a more positive way? Because that's what we're about, right? We're about looking at things in a positive way. And the best answer I have so far is what I just told you. I don't really want to focus my attention on people who lie in order to deceive others. I still do at times, more often than I really should for my own good, for my own benefit.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to focus more and more on the people who are wanting and trying to attract good things into their lives. And, basically live. This also kind of ties back to the discussions we've had in the past about what egoism is, and egotism, and selfishness, and all that kind of thing. I believe it all comes down to the same thing. What's your motivation? What is it that you want to do? There are some people who want to tear other people down. They're not the majority.
Yeah.
But there are people who just want to tear other people down, who want to make life miserable, who feel that the only way they can get ahead in life is if somebody else is worse off than they are. You know what I mean?
Which is so sad. So sad.
It is. And it's also encouraged by our media, very often by our entertainment. A lot of our entertainment is about
definitely entertainment.
Let's feel better by looking at what somebody else is going through, and they're so much worse off than I am, and so therefore I feel better. And when you look at that up close, you realize what a lie that is. Because the person who's saying that they're feeling better because the other person's so much worse off doesn't feel better.
No, they don't.
I mean, figure that one out, right?
Yeah. It's kind of like how people in the entertainment industry will have you believing, oh, I have 6 or 7 cars, I have all this stuff. No, you rented them for your video. So calm down. Stop, perpetrating, and, it's not that serious. But it turned into this huge thing, so where it's now called the Bow Wow Challenge.
The
where
what?
You're supposed to... The Bow Wow Challenge. You know who Little Bow Wow is?
I have no idea who that is, no.
Oh my God. Okay.
I'm about to get an education, I think.
He's a rapper from my era, like from, I'd say, like the mid 90s up until now. He's still current.
Okay.
And so he was the main one who would be like, oh, I've got all these watches, I got all these necklaces, and I got all this stuff. And then we found out he was lying. He was really broke.
Really?
And so now anytime someone tries to, like, you'll see on Facebook people taking pictures with like thousands of dollars, and you find out it's fake money or whatever have you. They call that the Bow Wow Challenge.
The Bow Wow Challenge. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like how big can you make your lie is the Bow Wow Challenge.
And you know what? That is a flawed way to pursue law of attraction.
Yes, it is.
Because you believe that you're lying.
Mm-hmm.
All that's going to do is encourage you to have more lies. And to experience more lies.
Lies beget lies.
Because it's not the words, it's the vibration. It's whatever it actually feels like. So instead of feeling like I'm rich, what he was making himself feel like is I'm pulling the wool over everybody's eyes. Mm-hmm. Which is an entirely different feeling. It's not the same at all.
It really is.
So, like, when you were dealing with your father, I know he hasn't been in your life for a while, but you had to deal with him for quite some time. And you said he was just a compulsive liar. Is that the word you used? Yeah. Compulsive?
Pathological.
Pathological? Okay. Mm-hmm. How did you deal with that? That's like a daily challenge. You know that the moment he opens his mouth, the likelihood of it not being true and of being deceptively not true is very, very high. How do you deal with that?
Well, I am a very naive person, so up until I was an adult, I believed everything he said, even when, like, he would say, okay, I'm going to pick you up at this time, and wouldn't show up, wouldn't call, nothing. The next time he said it, I was like, okay, this time he's coming. Every time. So, it was just a sad situation, and it took some therapy and some realizing to come to the conclusion, like, okay, he's a liar. I don't think he can help it at this point, and that's not conducive to my lifestyle, so I gotta go.
Nasha had a question. The phrase you used to describe what this rapper does and what is associated with him is extremely idiomatic. It's not good English in a sense. So you gotta tell her spell it out. She wants to know, how do you spell this Bow Wow challenge?
Okay, so it's BOWWOW challenge.
So Bow Wow, and Bow Wow is an idiom that usually refers to a dog.
Well, that was his whole thing is, Snoop Dogg was his, like, mentor. Mm-hmm. So he was like the little dog, so he was Little Bow Wow.
Okay. All right. So that's where Bow Wow challenge comes from.
Right.
I'm glad there was no more insinuation than that. Him being such a dog or something.
No.
That's good. Hey, at least there was some niceness in there, not some some positivity.
Silver lining in the cloud.
Yeah, right. But my goodness, yeah. How long do you think it took you before you finally were able to get your dad into perspective and realize? Well, you knew that you had to get him out of your life, but how long did it take before you were able to actually realize if something was coming out of his mouth that was probably not true?
There was an incident where he left me stranded, and I was just like, "No, I'm done." He told me, "Oh, meet me here at my where he parked his bus. He parked his bus at a specific spot." His bus. And so he's like, "Meet me at." Yeah, he owns a bus company.
Really?
So like the tour bus, not. Yeah, I guess they're tour buses. Yeah. So like the ones where you would take, like, going across the country and stuff like that. Yeah, he owns those.
Interesting.
So. So we were always traveling as kids. It was a good time.
So I got to ask you a question then. If he's a compulsive liar, are the bus schedules always late?
No, he usually leaves on time.
He's on time with that.
Okay. Riding with, yeah. But he was lying about where he was going to the two separate families that he had.
Oh my goodness.
So that's how he spent time with each family, is he would be like, "Oh, I have a what do you call it? Not a vacation, but I have a job. And I'm going to, and he'd pick a random state. So we wouldn't expect to see him for however long. And that's how he spent time with the other family.
Yeah. So he's running two families at once. And,
yeah.
Do you know, I don't know how much you know about this. I can't even imagine dealing with that. That just blows my mind to even think about it. But do you know anything about whether the other family accepts him or has rejected him? I mean, does he still have the other family?
To a point. That's part of the reason we no longer speak, is because he was cheating on my stepmother, and I was the one who told her. So he blames me for breaking up the marriage. I'm like, oh, so all that cheating you were doing was my fault. Got it. Okay.
And that's part of what's so interesting about the topic that I raised today.
Yeah.
Because the people who write headlines like that, or the people, I mean, this is part of a fairly large culture of lying that goes on.
Yeah.
I mean, here in the U.S., I don't think either one of us have to think very hard to realize that probably the voice that is loudest on this is the president, Donald Trump, because he's a compulsive liar. He just lies continuously. And interestingly enough, the people who are pro-Trump will dismiss that and say it's not true, which is in itself interesting. And on top of that, we have a whole bunch of people who are his opponents who regularly know that he's lying and then behave as if it's a shock every time that he does it.
Yeah.
and that sounds just like your story.
Yep.
Doesn't it?
It definitely does.
So just how gullible are we?
Right. We just want to believe the good in people. It's something inside of us that just says, no, this time it's going to be true.
That's a very good point. Yeah. That's exactly what happens. We do want, we want it to be true. We want to know that the other person is being honest with us.
Right.
So let's go back to the question about honesty versus imagination, because imagining is a key portion of the law of attraction, right? And because it's a key portion of the law of attraction, it's something those of us who perhaps are not really good at imagining have to learn, or those of us who imagined when we were a kid and kind of grew out of the habit have to relearn. But it's also something where we want to do it because we want the thing to actually come true, and we want it to feel good.
Yes.
Because we understand, as deliberate creators, that's a key thing. We want to focus on what makes us feel good. So I don't really want to spend too much more time on the compulsive liars, because other than to say
we're putting forth the negative energy.
Yeah. And well, also I do want to acknowledge there is probably some level on which they think they'll feel better by being compulsive liars. Otherwise they wouldn't do it, you know?
Yeah.
And that in and of itself is kind of a troubling philosophical question all by itself. You know, people who...
I think it's a whole mental illness by itself. That's what I think.
That's probably true. It is kind of a mental illness, isn't it? It's selecting ill as if it were well.
Yeah.
That's really what it is. You know,
exactly.
I'm going to choose illness, and I'm going to pretend that it's wellness.
Right.
That's really kind of important too, because when we're talking about illness versus wellness, that's right in line with this whole topic of, well, how do I turn a negative into a positive? And the usual way we think about that is, I have to say the opposite of whatever the negative is.
I have a perfect story for that.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, you ready? Okay, so the other day, Friday, I had to go get a steroid shot in my back. And usually it's really, really painful. So I was like prepared for the pain. I was like, need tissues. I'm going to cry. It's going to be horrible. And then I was like, no, you know what? I'm going to flip this around. So as I'm laying on the table, I'm laying on my stomach and I'm getting prepared, and I got my hands like this, getting ready for the pain. I was like, no, I'm going to loosen up my hands. I was like, at first I was like, this isn't going to hurt. And then I was like, no, I don't want to use the word hurt. I was like, this is not going to be painful. And I was like, no, I don't want to use the word painful. So I said, this is going to be painless. And I just kept saying that over and over in my head. This is going to be painless. And I didn't even know when they were done.
Wow.
Yeah.
So do you think you were lying to yourself?
I think I was lying to myself for it to become true.
So there was a lie going on there, which is interesting. And I was about to say that really lying to yourself usually isn't the best thing to do. Yeah,
but because subconsciously I was like, okay, but every other time this has hurt like a son of a gun. So,
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yep.
But this time I'm like, no, it's going to be painless. And it was. So I was like, good for me.
Well, I can think of one, I won't call it a mitigating, well, yeah, I will call it a mitigating factor. There is one mitigating factor that I think makes a huge difference. Abraham Hicks teaches us that things that we often think of as being opposites aren't truly opposite.
Right.
They are merely different vibration. Opposite is thing or lack of thing. Mm-hmm. So, in the case of the steroid shot, it's either pain or lack of pain. That would be an opposite. But what you were saying was almost that. You didn't say, did you say that you were going to not feel pain, or did you say that it was going to be okay?
I said this is going to be painless.
Painless. Okay, well, it's kind of, it's like bordering either way.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I had to go through a couple of words before I picked the one that I thought would be conducive. Yeah.
But I guess the point is that you picked a word that had the best feeling that you could think of.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's really the key. As long as the feeling is different, then it's on a different vibrational frequency.
Right.
And as long as it's on a different vibrational frequency, it almost doesn't matter whether it's opposite. What matters is it on a different frequency? Is it in a different ballpark, so to speak? That's really the most important thing. Whereas, interestingly enough, true opposites have very much the same vibration.
I didn't think of that.
They really do. I mean, in one sense, they're opposite. Purely opposite vibration. Because truly, the vibration of lack is at the other end of the scale from the vibration of have. So in that sense, they are opposite. In another sense, though, they can be very similar, and that is if you are treating lack of as equivalent to having in your own mind, you're turning the vibration of having into the vibration of lack, and it becomes basically the same thing as just lack.
Wow, so it's a waste of time.
It is. Well, it's a waste of time depending on what you believe.
Right.
See, if the classic example I can think of is trying to attract money. The average person who tries to attract money almost always fails, particularly if it's a large amount of money. And the reason they fail is because they're putting out there, oh, I so believe that money's going to show up and so forth. And they're talking themselves into it. The very act of talking themselves into it shows they really don't believe it.
Right,
so there's this underlying vibration going on, right? This underlying vibration that says, yeah, I know I'm lying. I know it's not true.
Exactly.
But I'm trying to pretend that part's not there. I'm going to try to pretend that I'm vibrating at the other end of the stick.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. In cases like that, even though we think that we're vibrating about the thing, we're really vibrating about the lack of the thing. And so it really is the same vibration.
Okay.
That's what I meant by that. If you truly are vibrating the thing, that is truly an opposite vibration. But when we're focused on the lack, boy, getting to that other side is about as far as you can go. It's about as big of a difference as there is.
Yeah.
It's because they're true opposites. And that's what makes it so hard. Money is particularly hard if you're in a bad health situation where you have chronic pain or chronic sickness or whatever.
Yeah.
That's another situation where the two ends of the stick are so far apart vibrationally that it just seems impossible to get there. And you can try to fake your way there. You can try to force your way there. And I've done that. Sometimes you can do it. Sometimes you can actually convince yourself that you really do feel the health end of the stick. And there are techniques used to do that. And that's a good thing to do. It's a very good thing to do. I'm just saying, when we don't succeed, we're actually reinforcing the other side. It's challenging. It's challenging.
I totally see that.
But it helps us to understand why it is that the things we want most are so difficult. Abraham likes to remind us that the ability to attract a button is the same as the ability to attract a castle, and that is true because it's all about what you're vibrating at. But it also fails to take into account the fact that when it's something that we feel really strongly about because we have this real strong feeling of lack, then it is a long way to get to. It is really, it can be very, very difficult to shift because of that difference.
Yeah.
It's a mind-blowing thing of just how powerful that little distinction is. That distinction is small on one hand, and on the other hand, it's gigantic. So earlier, Nasha asked, when we were talking about the liars and so forth, what was the question she asked? See if I can find it. Oh, why are some people like? Why? He says, why are some people like this? Why do some people behave like that? And I think the answer is most people, first of all, are not deliberate creators, so they don't even understand all this stuff. And
right, they don't understand the effect they're having on life in general.
None at all. And even more than that, in their ignorance, they certainly don't understand the fine differentiation between feeling lack and trying to pretend that you're feeling like you're abundant of whatever the thing is, and actual abundance. I mean, that distinction is lost entirely in that conversation. Yes. You know, so why do people behave the way they do? Because they don't understand.
Exactly.
I mean, that's a very subtle understanding point, and they just don't get it.
And they don't see the harm in it. That's the worst part.
Yeah. I honestly don't think that the president understands how much harm he does. I really don't think it occurs to him.
Yeah. And he's doing harm on a national level.
And I think he thinks he's doing good.
He does think he's doing good.
Yeah.
Either that or he's trying to law of attract the whole thing because
he's like,
oh, my, what does he say? Something about his percentages are like really high and they're like the lowest a president's ever had.
The favorability, unfavorability.
Yeah. His Twitter is, I don't know. Someone gave him the wrong information on law of attraction, let me tell you.
Well, I don't think he ever learned it as law of attraction, but I think he did learn law of attraction early in his own way. I think we could call it like street knowledge.
Yeah, okay.
And his street knowledge, in a sense, is one that worked very well for him because he was able to use law of attraction to get a lot of stuff. He screwed up a lot of things. He has a long history of bad investments and so forth and making bad decisions.
Oh, yeah.
But he also had enough wins that it just reinforced for him, all I have to do is want it and it'll happen. Yep. And that's all it takes to build up the confidence, just to have enough wins and it's going to happen. You know, so I can actually point to one thing he did do that involves lying that actually did benefit the American people. And it also benefited a number of people around the world. Gas prices are pretty low right now. That is because of Donald Trump.
Okay. Donald Trump, I'll give him that one.
And I won't go into all the details about how this works, but because of the nature of the way the market works with OPEC and the Russians and so forth, he took advantage of a particular scenario that was going on to basically deceive the big producers into thinking that Americans were going to be pulling out the Americans were basically going to be trying to cut off Iran and Iraq from the world supply and basically imply all these, these sanctions. And then he reversed course and made them think like they're going to have full entry. And that series of steps that he took basically caused all of the producers to speed up their production, thereby driving the price down to compensate for what they thought was going to be a massive increase. And of course,
interesting.
And of course, he lied, so he never was going to do any of the things he talked about. So they just knocked the price down, and now they're kind of stuck. They're actually, because of the dynamics of the market as it is right now, they're kind of stuck in this low price negative vortex.
Which is positive for us.
It's positive for us, yeah. So I got to give him credit for that one. I mean, it was sleazy, but it was smart.
He's a smooth one that way.
He is. He really is. And I know he's bragged about that one. I know that he's proud of the fact that he brought oil prices down. Now there is, of course, another side to that. The other side is it doesn't stay that way permanently. The market will eventually correct itself. So it's a temporary condition. But while that condition obtains, so to speak, we'll experience lower prices.
And that's fine. I will vibrate high in my
You'll vibrate high on that, right? But that's just it. That's how somebody who is a perpetual liar feels good. They find a way to justify what they're doing within their own minds. And he found a way to justify it in his own. And this particular one actually benefits a lot of people. Never mind that other things that he's advocated harm a lot of people. This one helps a lot of people, so he takes credit for it and considers himself the best president of all time.
Yeah, okay.
But isn't that similar to the way your dad operated?
Yes, that's exactly how my dad operates.
Right? Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, that's when you're a compulsive liar. You find ways to justify your lies.
Yep.
And because you got to believe them, right? That's how you sell somebody on a lie.
Exactly.
You have to believe your own lie. You have to make it sound so convincing that nobody could possibly detect that you're telling a lie.
Exactly. Like, he could probably pass a polygraph. I guarantee it.
It reminds me of, what was the movie? It was one of the Ocean movies, Danny Ocean, he and his team of thieves who break into casinos and so forth.
I just watched Ocean's 8. It was so good.
Oh, yeah, right. Well, there was one of the other Ocean movies starring, what's his name?
George Clooney?
Clooney, yeah, George Clooney.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember which one it was, but one of his team has to pass a polygraph. And so they outfit him with something that in his shoe that when he steps on it, it gives him an electric shock, and he's really uncomfortable. So he goes through the entire interview feeling really uncomfortable, and the polygraph detection says he's really uncomfortable. And so when he's not telling the truth, they can't tell the difference. So the person who interviews him says, I would have sworn you were lying through the whole thing, but the machine says you're telling the truth.
I think it was Bernie Mac that had to take the polygraph, if I'm not mistaken.
No, I don't think it was him.
Was it?
I don't think so. No. It was the guy.
How many Oceans movies are there? There's 11,
12, 13, and then with Sandra Bullock, there's 8.
Okay, because obviously I saw 8. I saw 11. Mm-hmm. I think I saw 12, and I was highly disappointed, so I definitely didn't see 13. I was like, what are we doing?
12 was a little weird. That was definitely true.
Oh, they forced it.
Yeah. Well, Louise actually didn't like 8, believe it or not.
Really? A lot of people didn't like 8.
Because the energy level wasn't
innovative.
It was innovative.
Yeah, the way that they stole things, yeah. I was like, these could be applied in real life. Like, this is a dangerous movie.
Well, there's also a certain suspension of belief you have to engage in order to appreciate the movies, to be perfectly honest. But,
yeah.
But, anyway. Actually, those movies, I guess, are also studying lying, aren't they? Now that I think
yes, they are. It all comes back around.
Oh, boy, I tell you. So let's see. We have some questions here, and I want to make sure I get them. I mean, we've been enjoying our conversation so much that I haven't gone to them, but I want to make sure I get them. So let me see if I can bring them up here. Okay. Well, there's a lot of conversation. I'm still not finding. I know there's some questions. I saw them. Where are they? Oh, actually, what we have here is it's a success story, I think. Let me just read it. Paula pasted this. Let me see what she posted. What she said.
Do we have to get you a magnifying glass for your birthday?
I know, it's awful. It's I
should talk. I'm supposed to be wearing glasses, but I don't.
I used to be so good at seeing small type and reading it, and I just can't see it anymore. My eyesight just doesn't do it. Anyway, she says she's responding to something that Shireen was the one who asked the question. She says, I want a full-time job. What do I do more to find a job? I'm 49 years old and getting stressed by this job haunting a lot. I like that, job haunting, as opposed to job hunting. Talk about like a hidden belief cropping up to the surface, popping up to the surface by saying haunting. But well, let's address her question first, and Paul addresses it as well. But let's address it ourselves first. You're needing a job, you can't find a job, you've been hunting, you're not getting anywhere. What's your solution on that? I mean, I know you actually don't do a job outside in the real world because of your medical conditions and so forth, but you did at one point. So how did you handle that?
Yeah. I created the job for myself. Like, I think I told this story before, but I'll tell it again. when I first got out of hair school, you're supposed to apprentice or, wash hair or, be an assistant. And I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. Skipping that step. I want my own chair. I'm a good hairstylist. I know what I'm doing. And so I went from salon to salon and I pitched that idea until one salon was like, all right, let's see what you can do. And they gave me a model and I did the model and they were like, you have your own chair. So I created the job myself. So maybe that's cool. What she needs to do. Maybe she needs to finagle a way to create, maybe she needs to start her own company doing what she loves to do.
Well, you didn't even start your own company. You worked within existing companies. But,
yeah.
But what I
eventually started my own company, but yeah.
Right. But what I like about what you did is you thought outside of the box.
Yeah.
That's what we call thinking outside the box. Inside the box is where you do everything the conventional way. The conventional way would be what they wanted you to do. You have to, go through this whole series of steps, and you said, "No, I don't want to go through those series of steps. I'm going to just skip a bunch of the steps and go right to what I want." So you created a new idea about how a chair can be assigned to a stylist. And he said, "I'm going to follow through on that belief, even though it doesn't currently exist." And that was way before law of attraction, and that was I've never been an inboxer. Like, you can never put me in a box. So I do what I want, and good things happen to me, and that's how my life has been. Okay. And let me see what Paula had to say in response. She says, knowing what you want and then scripting as if you already have it, using past tense language and letting go and taking action. So, for example, I'm so thankful that I now have a job that I absolutely love. I work close to my home, so the drive is so quick and easy. I work 9 to 5, and those are the hours that suit me well. I'm surrounded by colleagues that are happy, vibrant, and I get on with them so well, including management. We all go out socially, which is fun, too. My pay is amazing. I afford all of my utility bills easily, and I have so much left over at the end of the month for me to spend on what I want. Thank you, universe. So, I mean, that's
like it.
Do that. That is good, isn't that?
Yeah. I might have to steal that.
I personally might make different selections, different choices about what it is I'd want, because I've actually been friends with management, and I found that it actually isn't such a good idea. But that's not my dream. That's her dream. Her dream in her scenario was she wanted to be on a social basis with management. Great. Okay. So there you go. That's how you do it. That's good. I like that.
Yeah, see, for me, I am the management, so...
Yeah, right. I haven't had to do that.
Our social life is great.
That's right. It really sucks, I tell you, when you're your own manager and you're tough on yourself. Then you don't want to go out with yourself anywhere.
Like, all right, it's time for your yearly evaluation, and to be honest...
I learned very early on, annual evaluations are about the worst thing you can do.
Yes.
They really are. They're just terrible. Because their purpose is not to build somebody up. Their purpose is to tear somebody down. Right.
In hopes that they'll do better next time.
Which is, now that you understand how law of attraction works, you can tell, well, that doesn't make any sense at all.
That's ridiculous.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. If I tear myself down enough, or if I tear my employee down enough, they're going to work better. And there's actually no empirical evidence to support it.
No.
I mean, I actually took management classes in college, where they teach you management skills, usually for somebody who's pursuing an MBA. And there is no empirical evidence at all to suggest that when you treat people that way, they perform better. Now, companies will tell you otherwise. They'll tell you ever since we put in this employee evaluation system, our productivity went up or something along that line. Yeah. But what management studies show is that any such change like that is temporary. It never lasts. It doesn't hold. It's not sustainable. And the classic example, this is a very, very old example from back in the days when they were first learning how to do management studies, back in the early days of the Industrial Revolution and so forth. Back in the 1920s and 1930s, they did their first initial tests trying to figure out how do you improve productivity, how do you make the car come out right the first time, that kind of thing. And they went into this one factory. I can't remember what the factory made. But they went into a factory, and the advisors, the management experts were saying, well, we're noticing that the lighting in here is pretty dim. So we're going to recommend that you increase the lighting, make the lighting better. And if you do that, your workers are going to do a better job. So they put better lighting in, and productivity went up. And they said, well, that's pretty cool. And then later on, I don't remember exactly what happened, but for whatever reason, the lights had to get turned off or turned down or something like that. And management wasn't really happy about that because they thought productivity was going to go down. But they had to do it, so they did it, and productivity went up. And they said, what?
Okay.
And then they were able to put the better lighting back in, and productivity went up.
Huh.
And they're saying, what's going on here? It took them quite some time to figure out. It had nothing to do with the lighting. What it had to do with was the workers realized that management was trying to make their lives better. And every time they tried to make their lives better, they worked harder.
I like it. Yeah, that totally makes sense.
It had nothing to do with lighting at all. It had to do with whether or not.
Because I was like, where is the story going?
Yeah, that's all it was. So that kind of points to how you can draw incorrect conclusions from data. It's what the statisticians call the difference between causation and correlation and causation. Correlation meaning two things happening at the same time. But one doesn't necessarily cause the other, whereas causation, one does cause the other. And that concept shows up a lot. It shows up a lot among deliberate creators, law of attraction people. That's where we end up with things like, well, all I have to do is, even though I'm feeling a tremendous amount of lack, I can just force myself into not feeling lack and everything will work out just fine. And there are some people who successfully flip over to actually feeling they have. They're able to leave the lack feelings behind and others can't. But because some can do it, they say, well, there's the causation. So all you have to do is just force it. It's actually correlation because it's not truly proven at that point. It's only proven for certain people under certain circumstances, but not for other people under other circumstances.
Right.
Boy, that stuff gets confusing.
Yeah, I know, right?
So, let's see. Do we have any other questions going on? We've got a lot of people sharing some great tips, saying hello, all that kind of thing. I just took a phone call. Shelley says, you just have to change it up. Annual awards.
Ooh.
Interesting concept.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's certainly better than evaluations that are showing you everything you're doing wrong. Annual, it doesn't have to be annual. Any kind of reward for doing something well, that's going to be a good thing.
Yeah, I was definitely on my best behavior in school when I got a gold star.
Yeah.
I needed that gold star at the end of the day. I needed it.
I always wondered about that because I kept thinking to myself, well, what good is the gold star?
I don't know. It was shiny. Nobody else had one.
Yeah, right.
It was just coveted.
There's actually a whole science about that. Gamification, they call it. Because in video games and so forth, they'll often have a point system. You do such and such in the game, you get points for it, or you get a badge, or you get some sort of a recognition for it. And they realized that the more that they built those kinds of things in, the more people played the games. Mm-hmm. So people are going after these status symbols, basically, that are absolutely valueless in terms of being able to buy anything with them or use them for anything else outside of the game. It's just, within the game, I just achieved this status level. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I still don't quite understand that one, but I mean, I do. But
you don't play video games.
Well, yeah, I lost interest in video games back years and years ago. I recognize the video game craze today. Mm-hmm. I don't get it. I mean, I've even tried. I don't remember what it was. I tried one of the games recently that's out there, and I lost interest so fast. It was crazy.
Some of them, the graphics are so good, I can't my brain can't process it. My eyes are like, no, this is too much. It's too real. I can't handle it. I gotta sign off.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. But games like The Sims, which is those I can play. I can play those all day, every day.
Now, what is it you like about it? Because I think that's actually the one I played with for a little bit, and I lost interest really, really fast. So,
well, it's easy to lose interest in that because it's the same goal every day. Mm-hmm. You know, you get up, you go to work, you know, depending on what your situation is, you take care of your family. But the goal is to make enough money to buy more stuff to raise your status. So it's exactly what you were saying.
Okay.
Except you gotta be.
I know why. As you're saying that, I understand why now. I didn't really like it very much.
Yeah.
Which is most of the time that I was doing stuff to feed the family, so to speak. I was doing stuff I didn't love. So I'm thinking, why do I want to play a game to do that even more?
Yeah, it's real life. It's real life.
I don't want to. I mean, I've had enough of that. Why do I do more of that?
Yeah, it's like, oh, I got to exercise so I can get this type of body, but I have to go to the bathroom right now, so I have to stop what I'm doing, and then it's just, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Well, I guess it proves that everybody has their own perception about what they find to be good and what they find to be not good, what they prefer and what they don't prefer.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that for me, all of that was on the not prefer side.
Well, it can also be fun if you mess with it a little bit. Like,
what do you mean?
If my sim had, like, 0 cooking skills, like, it's like 0 out of 10 skills. So if my cook had 0 cooking skills and I kept using the oven, eventually a fire was going to start. So that caused some excitement in the game. So can you find the fire extinguisher fast enough? Can the fire department get there fast enough before everything burns to the ground? And will you die?
Jeez.
Because then your ghost lingers around the game for like 2 days. It's great.
Well, to me, that's the same category as the people. And I think Sims was one of the games where there was a lot of this. You could buy solutions that would hack the game and cheat it.
Yes, you can.
And, I mean, the first thought that goes through my mind is, what's the point of a game if the whole point is to hack it? Why bother to have the rules?
I don't know.
I don't understand.
What's the point of having a law if you're going to have loopholes? I don't know these things.
Well, I know enough about the law to understand just how dysfunctional it is anyway, so I can at least kind of explain it away that much. But, I mean, it's not like with the law, you don't have a lot of choice. You know, you have to obey the law. That's just the way it is. Yeah. Sims, you don't have to obey Sims. You don't have to play the game. It's voluntary.
Yeah.
You're volunteering for the pain. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, what's going on here? Are we so conditioned to look for pain that we look for it in our entertainment too? And honestly, I think that's part of it.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of that going on.
A lot of therapists recommend it for social anxiety.
Really?
I don't know why. I guess it's so you can learn how to interact with people, because that's part of the game too, is learning to make friends. You have to have a certain amount of friends to have a certain amount of status. So I'm like,
okay.
But I'd rather talk to the people in the game than talk to people in real life. So I don't see how that's going to work.
Well, that's my thought. I mean, if what you need to do, if the therapist wants you to learn to interact with other people, wouldn't it be better to interact with other people?
Well, that's when the game goes online, you can actually talk to actual other people.
So now we're in the same realm as dating apps.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And didn't we do a show where we talked about how dating apps leave us in a place where we don't actually have communication going on?
Yep. Yep.
So
definitely
we're
true.
going to teach people how to better communicate by putting them into environments where there's no real communication going on.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I feel like it's more forced communication.
Is it just me? Am I the only one who thinks this is insane?
No, I feel like it's forced communication as opposed to lack of communication with dating apps and video games, because it's like you have to you have to get to the point quicker with dating apps. You know what I mean? Like, what are you here for? What do you want? Why did you swipe right? Why are you on my page? Like, I need to know these things before I, move on with this conversation. And So, things just move a lot faster via text. And yeah, but no real conversation happens. And I think that's what sparked me about, that's what sparked me about Mike, is he was like, "Can I call you?" And I was like, oh, yeah, okay, this is different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do people not make phone calls anymore?
No. People text. There was a meme I saw the other day, and it said, I look at my phone while it's ringing and wonder, could this have been textable?
Oh.
I personally still make phone calls because I like talking to people. I don't mind texting, but I like having long conversations with people. So I like making phone calls.
I don't know. Again, maybe this is me, but I just know from my own experience. I think I've told you, when I was in my 20s and my 30s, mm-hmm. despite the fact that I played in a rock band, I was a pretty shy person, especially in my 20s. And I mean, I just didn't hardly communicate with anybody most of the time. And I knew I needed to change that pattern. I knew I had to learn how to interact with people and so forth. Mm-hmm. And so even though I didn't like it very much, I kind of pushed myself to get out there into the real world and interact with people. And it was a long, slow process. So when the idea came along of being able to run away from all that by, texting and so forth, I saw the appeal to it. I certainly understand the appeal to it. But I also saw the danger of it. Because the danger is, okay, you can get sucked into this thing of texting all the time and not actively interacting with anybody, and you never really learn the social skill. Mm-hmm. That's the part that's alarming to me.
That is a fact.
So, I mean, if that really is the case, most young people really don't call anymore.
Nope.
I'm saying that, like, having trouble getting the words out because I don't believe it.
Like, people don't even understand what to do when their phone rings. They're like, why is it making that noise?
You're pulling my leg.
I swear to God. I swear.
So do we have to have a class on how to use a phone as a phone?
I mean, it's gonna become obsolete pretty soon. I think.
I'm in a realm right now where I don't know how to handle the stimuli that's around me. I don't understand.
Welcome to my life.
Welcome to autism, right? Yeah. What the? Well, on the one hand, it's kind of encouraging and soothing because I know that it isn't me. The world really is crazy.
It's good to know when you have that feeling.
Absolutely.
Like, okay, I'm not alone. I'm not alone.
Oh, seriously, I'm going to have to sit with that one for a while just to get a sense of it.
Let that marinate. Yeah.
Holy
cow. Look what happened to the landline. Things are becoming obsolete, especially with virtual reality now. Now you can actually be another person in another situation.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
and you're online talking to other people, so it's like it's insane.
Yeah,
Watch the movie Ready Player One. This is the era we're heading into.
Ready Player One?
Yes.
All right, I'll make a note. Ready Player One.
It's a very good movie, Steven Spielberg movie, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about.
Well, we've got a few minutes left. I want to bring up one other concept. And that's the concept of discouragement. Because people who are trying to learn how to do the law of attraction can easily get discouraged because they aren't getting the results that they're expecting to get. And I'm bringing this in now. I almost left it alone. I figured, well, we could talk about it in another show. But I'm realizing there's a big connection to what we've been talking about with discouragement. Mm-hmm. Because when you have an entire society that's moving away from direct interhuman communication and replacing it with electronic text communication that eliminates it eliminates sight, eliminates most of the feelings, and by feelings I mean the senses. It eliminates the senses, so eliminates all of the sensory cues that we rely upon to understand what another person is communicating to us. And it keeps us at a distance from almost everything. So by maintaining that distance, we lose, I'm going to say it very bluntly, we lose intimacy.
Yes.
We lose the ability to closely interact with people that we care about. Mm-hmm. And so my question is, how does discouragement feed that? Because I think it does. I think discouragement is fed by and feeds that. I think it's one of these negative vortex things, where the more that we get away from personal intercommunication on a personal level, not an electronic level, the easier it's going to be for us to be discouraged. What do you think? Am I crazy? Do you think, or do you think of it a little bit differently? How do you think about it?
I don't see the correlation.
You don't? Okay.
No. I don't know, because I don't feel like, I mean, I guess in one way you can say, people that discourage, don't call me. I prefer that you text me. Mm-hmm. And then, and that begets, okay, now I'm in a texting relationship with this person, and then that's how we talk. And then that begets, okay, that's how I talk with everybody now. So I guess I kind of see your point.
Yeah, because at what point does it become encouragement?
Right. It doesn't. That's the thing.
It doesn't, and that's the point.
Yeah.
So as long
as
you
have to take that upon yourself.
But how can you? You no longer have the avenue you used to have of that interpersonal connection. Okay, so
well, this is where I think all the video chatting apps that are becoming popular are coming into play.
Yeah,
like
sure.
FaceTime
because we're reintroducing a sense that should have been there all along. Sight.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
So that's an improvement.
Yes.
Now all we need to have is the app that also includes touch and smell-o-vision.
They are working on that.
They are working on it. They are.
I've seen stuff. Yeah.
Yep. And then at some point we realize that we're in the Matrix.
Yep. Basically.
And I'm not sure if that feels comfortable or not. I'm not really sure about that one.
I think I'd rather stay in the Matrix and be ignorant to the whole situation, because I like the way things are right now. I don't want to be in a pod.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So there you have it. Alyx has volunteered to be food for an alien race.
Oh my God. Yeah, I guess so. I volunteer as tribute.
As tribute. Well, it's scary. In one sense, it's like that's really where we're going with this thing. And at some point, you kind of shake your head and you say, "Really? That's where we want to go?" Honestly,
right? Yeah.
Well, anyway, this has been quite an exploration. I mean, it all just started with the question of truth and reality versus imagination, and when is it telling a lie, and when is it imagining what you want as a preference. And I have a feeling that we have basically just started to scratch the surface on this issue. This one's going to pop up a few times going forward.
I agree.
Yeah. But that's good. That's, that gives us fodder for conversation, among other things.
Yep.
So, good stuff. So anyway, I guess next time I will be talking to you will be on Friday when me and Tom Wells do the show.
Friday morning.
All right. So I will see you then. Thank you for becoming my new Wednesday co-host. I appreciate it.
I'm always here.
I love it. All right. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.